Hi, it's Maggie the Irish Gypsy here to bring you your November 2018 general reading. Thank you very much for joining us here today. Welcome to any newcomers, and thank you for all those of you who continue to follow my channel, your likes, your shares, your subscribes, your feedback and comments. Thank you so much. And to all of my clients out there, regular and new, thank you for allowing me the opportunities to read for you. It's an honor and a pleasure. Thank you so very much for keeping me so busy with those. And if any of you are interested in a personal one-on-one reading with me and you don't have the information or you've forgotten it, you can go to my YouTube channel's homepage and click on the little About button there, or you can click on the description bar of all the videos that I post for more information and contact details. Please feel free to email me directly at maggie1mcguire@gmail.com. I'd be delighted to work with you. I do a wide variety of readings in all areas of life, and turnaround time is usually pretty quick, live or recorded, as I do readings full time, 5 to 6 days a week. It is what I do. So I work pretty diligently with your schedule to get you your reading or have that reading with you as quickly as possible. So send me an email if you're interested and we'll go from there. You can also find me on the smartphone app Instantgo under Irish Gypsy, and that link is also provided. And that app is good for fast, easy questions. If you just need a quick answer to a fast, easy question, you can find me on there. For the more traditional readings or more complex situations, just send me an email and we'll set something else up for you. All right, let's move right into this. This reading is for the fire sign of Aries, our Rams, for the month of November 2018. For additional insight and clarification, if you know your rising and moon sign, watch those as well. General readings always resonate a little differently because there's so many of you watching. Okay, Aries, let's see what's in store for you for November 2018. Okay, Aries, we begin with the Eight of Wands. Doesn't want to come. Followed by the Five of Pentacles. We have the Nine of Pentacles, followed by the Nine of Swords. We have the Ace of Swords, followed by the Magician. And we have the Hierophant, followed by the Three of Wands. From the bottom of the deck, your overall energy guidance for the month is the Nine of Wands. All right, Aries. Okay. I'm sorry about the pause, but I was just kind of sorting everything that was coming through. I'm going to start with your crowning card, Aries, which represents your general focus and overall energy and guidance for the month of November 2018. We have the Nine of Wands here. You have 3 nines in your reading, and in the tarot, tens represent cycles ending, something coming to an end or an achievement or fulfillment phase where it then ends and transitions into something else, or an ending completely, some cycle ending, a cycle of your, I feel like for a lot of you it's a cycle, a certain cycle of your life that includes an ideology or a way that you have of looking at something. Because I feel for a lot of you, not only just Aries, but those of you that are cross-watching for Aries too, and I don't often get a lot of that energy coming in general readings, but I feel like some of you who are cross-watching for Aries and Aries in your life or an Aries around your life, someone is being kind of maybe is stuck in something, but they're stuck when they're almost at a completion point because of there's a sense of stubbornness or rootedness into holding on to an ideology or a belief system that they've had which is no longer working for them, but they're still, you know, maybe holding on to the vestiges of it. You have so tens represent completion. You have 3 nines in your reading, and I feel like you're very close to something. You're kind of stuck on some last thing, hurdle or obstacle or delay, or again a mindset, I think, for a lot of you. The Nine of Wands is about being very close to completing something, and finding yourself maybe stuck fast in a bog of something, running into maybe an unexpected last minute some hurdle, obstacle, delay, challenge of some kind, which is what the groupings of 8 wands behind this man represent, holding on to this last wand. This man is a soldier, and what do soldiers do? They fight. He's a soldier at night, and what do? They go off to fight battles. Soldiers do, and this soldier's been through a number of battles. And in other tarot decks, he's sometimes depicted as standing up, holding on to the wand, and he's got a bandage wrapped around his head. I mean, he's been through quite a bit, and he wants to be done. He's tired. He wants to go home and take his armor off and put up his feet, have a beer, whatever. He's tired, worn out, exhausted, and just when completion is so close, right around the corner, and maybe you can't see that it's there because it's right around the corner. We can't see around corners. That's the nature of life sometimes. There's this hurdle, this block, this obstacle, this delay. But the Nine of Wands almost always carries the additional message or guidance to push through. You're trying to push through something, or you need to push through something because you're very close to a cycle ending in your life. What that cycle is going to vary from person to person because it's a general reading. There's a lot of you watching. But this grouping of wands represents some last hurdle or challenge that needs to be dealt with before you can get to the 10. And I feel like for a lot of you, and I rarely ever get this on this card, but I feel like for a lot of you, this wand that he's holding on to, this ninth wand, is something that you're holding on to. It could be someone close to you, especially those of you who are cross-watching for Aries. I feel like this one represents something that you are stubbornly holding on to, which is preventing you or delaying you or in the way of your getting to a 10. And the advice for the Nine of Wands is to push through. I call it the 11th hour card. It's the card to me that carries the energy of it's always darkest before dawn. It can represent maybe feeling a bit discouraged or depressed because something has kind of popped up and you just want to be done, and you're like, oh my gosh, am I ever going to be done? How can I get through whatever this grouping of wands represents? Should I get through it? Can I? Do I have the strength? Do I want to continue? This is a card about pushing through something. Some of you need to push through because you're almost close to ending a certain cycle in your life. And I feel like some of you are holding on to something, and that something is a way of looking at something. And I feel like there may be a sense of what you're holding on to is a sense of false independence. Or a sense of the kind of independence that may have come from age, experience, how you grew up, whatever your life experiences, that maybe you might think that you are or want to be or portrayed yourself to be kind of this just feels very specific to somebody, but I have to get it out because that's what's coming up. That you don't need people or things, that you don't want to reach out because it implies a kind of neediness or weakness, or wanting to kind of be strong and independent. And there's nothing wrong with that in and of itself, but I feel like you carry it to the opposite extreme, and whatever it is that you're holding on to is preventing you perhaps from having the kind of joy and fulfillment maybe in your relationship life, whether that's with romantic relationships or friendships or a combination of all of those. It could be maybe for some of you interfering in work life. I feel like you've taken this ideology about being free to an extreme, and it's actually preventing you from getting to a place where you can have joy and more joy and fulfillment in your life, but you're still kind of stubbornly hanging on to the roots of it, whatever those roots are. I feel like in the end of October, beginning of November, I am recording these videos in the last few days of October. We have the Eight of Wands and the Five of Pentacles. I feel like some of you, although it may have been in the last part of October, received some news, messages, information, or you're waiting maybe on some news, messages, information, some kind of communication. The Eight of Wands is the communication card. It's also it's a card about communication, conversations, messages kind of coming in. It's a card that can also represent traveling as well. it's clarified by the Five of Wands, which the Five of Wands is a card fundamentally of insufficiency and lack, not having enough. In a financial or material sense, it can represent maybe not having enough money, maybe being out of work or not having a job that doesn't pay enough, robbing Peter to pay Paul. In an emotional relationship sense, it can represent being shut out, being on the outside, maybe not feeling good enough, perhaps feeling abandoned or rejected. It can it can also, and again, this is, the tricky part with general readings. It can also, because there's multiple ways this can run, it can also represent that you're in need, that you're lacking something, and there's something actually right in front of you that you're either not paying attention to, or you don't want to reach out and take it or ask for it, or whether it's a thing or help or a person of some kind. You're not taking a deeper look at it, or you're not willing to reach out and take what's being offered, or take what's there, what's close in your environment, because this light shining out between this couple that's in need represents whatever it is that they need, that they're lacking, or the help and support that they need. So again, this can run a few different ways. It could be that some of you are having conversations about whatever this issue is in your life. It could be that you're waiting for communication or news, and you may, in the meantime, while you're waiting for this, you might be feeling maybe shut out or abandoned somehow. Uh, some of you some of you may be withholding communication from somebody, or not talking about something, and it's making somebody else feel, alone, or not good enough, or somehow insufficient. They're waiting for news or information from you. Um, and not getting that is making them, feel not all that great. Some of you, I think a smaller portion of you, this might be attached or directly about your finances or a job of some kind. There may have been news or information that has come in, or that you're waiting for, to either alleviate a sense of financial or material need, or some kind of news or communication has come in which has created some kind of sense of financial or material need. Can run both ways. So next to that, we have the Nine of Pentacles and the Nine of Swords. So here's two more nines here. The Nine of Pentacles is a card of independence, self-sufficiency, self-empowerment, a card. She's enjoying she has a lot of things around her. She's surrounded by things which are symbolic of having everything that she needs, having enough money, having enough material stuff, having a good job. She's worked long and hard to enjoy for what she's now enjoying, the fruits and the results of her own labors. Nobody's handed anything to her on a silver platter. She's worked very hard for everything, or he has worked very hard for everything that they're now enjoying. They don't need anybody to take care of them, because they're able to take care of themselves, and they've proved that through their own hard work and energy and labor and where they're at today. So it's a card of independence and self-sufficiency and self-empowerment. Now it's clarified by the Nine of Swords, which is a card I don't like to see for people. It's a card that represents a lot of stress, anxiety, worry, sleepless nights, circular thinking, focusing too much on the negativity of a situation. Your thoughts going around and around in a circle. I mean, you can see this woman is sitting up. It's late at night. The moon has risen high in the sky, and but she's hunched over in a protective, defensive gesture. Swords represent it's air energy, so it represents it's cerebral, mental, intellectual, psychological energy. It represents what goes on up in our heads, our thoughts, our ideas, our belief systems, our ideologies. Because that affects the way that we see the world, that we see other people, and how we relate and communicate. So swords can be ideas. You see all these swords that are interlaced. Some are pointing down, some of them are tangled up with each other. It can represent that she's completely, or he's completely, filled with anxiety and stress and fear and worry about one thought or a series of thoughts, dwelling on it over and over and over again, thinking about it too much. This is a card. The beauty of the Nine of Swords, the positive aspect of the Nine of Swords, is that this energy is somewhat illusionary, meaning the source of the worry or fear or anxiety might be valid, but this card comes up when there's too much energy being put into it. And I often see this card come up when what somebody is worried about or in fear about is about the future, is about an unknown future. You're trying to pre-write the script for something which hasn't even happened yet, and already worrying about something which hasn't even happened yet. The little owl on the windowsill, everything's symbolic on a tarot card. Owls are one of those universal symbols of wisdom, solution, clarity, insight. But she can't see this owl, even though it's right there, uh, which might represent insight, wisdom, solution, and answer, because she's too busy focusing on whatever the source of the stress, anxiety, and worry is. It's sitting next to the Five of Pentacles, which is very similar. In both of these cards, these people are missing something which is right in front of them or right around them in their environment. If they would just look at it, reach out for it, acknowledge that they might need it. So the Nine of Pentacles and the Nine of Swords. So for some of you, this is going to be just concrete financial material issues. You know, there's this sense of lack of insufficiency. Maybe something's come in. Maybe some of you have lost your jobs or are worried about losing your jobs or something of that sort, worrying about losing your sense of independence and being able to take care of yourself in a financial and material sense. For a lot of you, I'm feeling like this is maybe in the relationship aspect of your life. Something's being challenged in your life. And I feel like it's been challenged for a while, but things may be coming to a head right now where, I mean, it could be that you maybe you've been operating in one way or another with this lone wolf mentality the majority of your life, and something has come in. For some of you, I feel like there's a relationship which is not new, but which is there, and it's maybe stagnated because it needs to move. It has a life, and life is meant to move forward. It's meant to move in another direction, and it may be having difficulties or stagnation. And there's somebody, you or the other person, is stubbornly holding on to, well, I can't admit this need. If I move to the next step, then I'm admitting something, and because of that, it makes me weak or it makes me vulnerable. And it's this old ideology, this old way of thinking that may have worked for you in the past or served you even well in the past, but for some reason it's meant to end. This portion, this cycle is meant to end, and I feel like you're stuck in the very end zone of that, stubbornly holding on to that. For some of you, it might be somebody close to you as well. Now, then we have the Ace of Swords. It's an interesting reading. The Ace of Swords and the Magician. So aces represent, they're the number one, so they represent new beginnings, new paths, or the opportunity to start something new. Here we have more air energy with swords. So the Ace of Swords can represent an epiphany, a new idea, a fresh perspective, a new information coming in, a new idea, or a different way of looking at something. It's clarified by the Magician, which is a very independent kind of entrepreneurial card. The Magician is a very independent, can often be a lone wolf too. He's got a lot of road behind him already. He's worked very hard, just like that Nine of Pentacles. He's worked very hard to get to where he's at. He's now the Magician, but becoming the Magician was a long, hard path. He learned a lot from trial and error, and now he's at a point where he has the tools, the wisdom, the knowledge, and experience to take whatever he thinks or dreams and manifest it into reality by using his long road of experience and tools and wisdom and knowledge that he now has, because now he's the Magician. However, if the Magician has a challenge, it's in perhaps relationships or working with other people, because he's very independent. He's walked his own path. He has his own way of doing, or her own way of doing things, and that's the way he does them. It's the best way to do it because that's what's worked for him. So often can have difficulty in personal or interpersonal relationships. So I feel like there's this, again, this can point to another struggle. It's like it's like all the top cards, Aries, are all about maybe new ideas, a new vision, a new perspective, this thing that wants to, that feels, you know, like it's wanting to go in this other direction. But then there's this worry and this stress and this anxiety and this holding on. But I've always lived my life this way, and I've always done this way, and I've always thought about things this way. But is it working for you now? That's the whole question. If you're stubbornly holding on to something because you're afraid of what might happen if you do it, or if you don't do it, consider where you are now. How well has this ideology worked for you? How well is it working for you now? And I feel like maybe you're starting to shift a little bit by the end of November. We have the Hierophant and the Three of Wands. The Hierophant is a card of tradition, convention, walking the prescribed path, doing what the expected thing is because people behind you for generations have done it that way. It can represent culture, tradition. In relationships, it can represent, walking that path, dating, exclusivity, getting engaged, getting married, moving in together, meeting the family, whatever that path might be, that path of convention, cultural or ethnic identity, organized religions, large institutions, the tried and true, the established path, the already well established path, where those deep roots. Now what clarifies it is the Three of Wands, which is beginning to see the manifestations of something, maybe having a long-term vision or goal. And the Three of Wands is you've put some work into it and you're just beginning to actually see things manifest in a small way on the path to achieving a bigger vision or goal. Seeing things begin to happen, seeing things begin to manifest, seeing the manifestations of some of the work that you've already put into this. It's about beginning to see things paying off, beginning to see work paying off, beginning to see the hope of things actually working out for you. And it's coming from this sense of the established path, or the tried and true, the conventional path. So I feel like I always try and find the positive aspects, even in the most challenging of readings, or the most challenging of cards, because there's always one there. So I hope that it's not like all gloom and doom, but we all go through up and down times in our life. That's just what life is. It's not all like Nine of Cups energy every month all the time, right? So it looks like you've maybe been kind of headed towards something. I feel like for a lot of you, it's in your relationship life and how you look at relationships, different type of relationships, and yourself in regards to other people in those relationships. Some of you, it might just be about money and finances, but I feel like for those of you, this reading feels like it's the smaller portion of you. But it could be that as well. It feels like, and regardless of what area of your life this is manifesting in, because general readings, details, and specifics are always going to vary. In order for you to get where you're feeling pulled, I feel like you're in this kind of push and pull situation. You're very close to completing a cycle in your life. And I feel like part of that cycle has to do with the way that your perspective of it, how you view yourself in relation to whatever this thing is. And the thing that's preventing you from getting from the 9 to the 10 is this holding on to a way of looking at something, a way of believing something, a belief system. But I feel that the turmoil for you is in your resistance, or in this other person's resistance, and that walking through and into that resistance and coming out on the other side is going to get you to that 10, to that completion point. So I'm going to do what I don't normally do in general readings, which is pull, or I don't often do in general readings, which is pull a couple of additional advice cards before we end, Aries, to see if there is any advice to kind of help get you through this last bit, so this cycle can come to an end and you can move on in a way. Well, your cards just went all over the place. That you can move on in the way that Spirit wants you to move, and that they're trying to get you to move into. But there's this resistance, and that's where the struggle is coming from. Okay, advice and guidance. We have Justice and the Two of Wands. Justice and the Two of Wands. Two of Wands came out first, clarified by Justice. The Two of Wands. Which path do I go? Which way do I go? What choice do I make? What do you want long term? That's the key to knowing which path to take. What, in whatever area of your life this is about, what do you ultimately want? If this is about the relationship area in your life, and you're in a relationship that's, moving forward, because relationships are living things. They have a life, and life is meant to move. If you're resisting going to the next thing, ask yourself, what kind of a relationship am I wanting? What kind of down the road? Where am I really hoping to be in this relationship, or in this job, or in whatever area of your life this is? Because it's almost impossible to prepare a pack for a journey which has no destination in mind, no end goal. You'll end up just wandering all over the place, which has its own joy and value too, but not when it includes other people's lives. So this is about long-term thinking, looking down the road, which will make the path to getting there easier to choose and to start walking down. So ask yourself, what do you, in whatever area of your life this challenge is in, what do you really want long term? What's in your way of getting there? What do you really want long term? If you want a certain type of relationship long term, and but you're holding on to something which is preventing you from getting on that path towards going there, then you need to let it go. Justice. It's about doing the right thing. What is the right thing? What do I do? What is the right thing? This is about honor and integrity, because the reason this is the tit for tat card. It's the reap what you sow card, which is what justice is. Justice is blind, meaning that the outcome of something, how something ends up working out, is going to be dependent on what you put into it, not what you think about, wish for, want, hope for, dream it could be, talk about, but what you actually do, the choices you actually make, the things you actually set into motion. So it's about operating with the highest level of personal honor and integrity that you can. It's about doing the right thing, because that's what's really going to decide the outcome and consequences of whatever it is that you're hoping to achieve further down the road in your life, Aries. So that's your advice and your guidance. Feels like kind of a heavy reading. Sometimes it works out this way. So interesting. I'll probably get some interesting feedback on this one. So Aries, that pretty much wraps up your general reading for November 2018. I hope that you found it helpful and useful, because that's why we do these readings. Again, if any of you are interested in a more personal one-on-one reading, you can go to my YouTube channel's homepage and click on that little about button, or you can click on the description bar of any of the videos I post. Please feel free to email me directly at maggie1mcguire@gmail.com. I would be most happy to work with you and set up a reading as quickly as possible. I do love and romance, relationship compatibility charting, reconciliation spreads, career work and finance, investment readings. I do 6 and 12-month overviews, which take a look at, it's a pretty intensive spread. It takes a look at what's coming in your life over the next 6 or 12 months in all the main areas. And gift readings as well. A lot of people like those last groupings of readings. I get a lot of requests for them in the end of the year. During the holidays, they make nice gift readings. There's nothing more personal than a personal reading. And a lot of people like to look ahead at the new year that's coming with the 6 and 12-month overviews, although you can do them at any time of the year. So anyway, if you're interested in any of those, send me an email at maggie1mcguire@gmail.com. I'd be happy to work with you. And for the quick answers to the quick questions, you can find me on the smartphone app Instantgo under Irish Gypsy. That link is also provided. So I will see you all again, Aries, in a couple of weeks for the November 2018 mid-month readings. And until then, as always, I wish you joy, peace, blessings, and a happy life. Take care. Bye-bye.